appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to everyone who came to waive in opposition to the bill too. And, you know, people are really struggling right now. And I think there's universal agreement on that. And I really appreciate Rep. Valdez too and uplifting those points as well. I mean, the reality is that wages have historically remained very stagnant despite the $15 minimum wage that voters approved several years ago, while the cost of living has gone astronomically high. And so, you know, I have concerns on a few fronts. One, I mentioned the constitutionality, just like, period. And candidly, a lot of my concern is that we're setting up litigation to try to overturn the voter-approved referendum. And I find that deeply concerning. And I really think it's important to respect the will of the voters. Now, I also hear the struggles of small businesses, truly. And all of us run campaigns. I'm very intentional with my campaign staff. They're all W-2 employees. I pay federal taxes on my campaign staff. I know a lot of campaigns do 1099s, but if I'm giving you a uniform and a software to use, you are no longer a contract worker for me. And I pay all of them at least minimum $18 an hour. And I'm not a billionaire. And I think if I can do that in my campaign apparatus, I can expect, especially large multinational corporations or, you know, a company that is making $100,000 in profit to at least invest in their workers. I mean, workers are our top talent, and they deserve to have a wage that they can live on. And ironically, $15 an hour is not even enough anymore. You know, we're talking about $28,000 annually before taxes. And so I understand that there is an ideological opposition to the minimum wage in this body. I get that. But at the end of the day, you know, the free market is not going to always operate in the best interest of the consumer, let alone the best interest of the worker. It operates in the best interest of the profit. And profit doesn't always keep in consideration workers' health benefits or workers' safety or, you know, let alone environmental protection. That's why we have a regulatory body that is trying to provide a little bit of check and balance just to make sure that, yes, we'll try to create an ecosystem where you can be profitable in this state and in this country, but let's also make sure that the workers benefit from that or at least have the bare minimum from that, right? And the fact that voters, in a year that they voted for President Trump, they voted for the $15 minimum wage, also tells me this is not a nonpartisan issue. This is a bipartisan issue where workers from every walk of life, every political ideology want to be paid to the value of their work and agree that as a minimum, $15 should represent that value. And so there are, you know, still pathways when it comes to stipends, and you know the Fair Labor Act has some other exemptions and so forth. But I think for us as a state, be mindful of the state constitution and be mindful of voter preferences and voter approval, and just thinking about the Alice report and the amount of Floridians who live in poverty today. We should not be creating avenues to pay people less. We should be finding opportunities to pay them at the basic minimum wage that the voters approved. Thank you, Chair.